Welcome back to my inner sanctum. I'm your hostess, Countess Elizabeth, Mistress of the Macabre. Ghost stories and horror have always been a part of the human psyche, being afraid of those things that go bump in the night. What I have found especially fascinating is Japanese horror, for its psychological elements and suspense building. Certain aspects of Japanese horror are way older than they seem, stemming from ancient Japanese folk tales. Today, I wanted to take a look at some of those ghoulish aspects of Japanese folklore. So let us go on a trip to the land of the rising sun and explore our grotesque curiosity. Movies like The Grudge tend to show the old trope in Japanese horror, a young dead woman dressed in white haunting and terrorizing the main characters. Well, these vengeful ghosts have deep roots in Japanese folklore. But what people may not know is that this vengeful spirit is a figure in Japanese folklore called a yurai. Yurai are spirits who are kept from a peaceful afterlife due to revenge, hatred, or sorrow. They're a type of yokai. Yokai is a broad term for supernatural beings and can include shapeshifters and trickster figures as well. However, Yurai spirits tend to be those that want to cause harm to people after they have passed on. The most dreaded type of Yurai are the stories of spirits called Onryo, which means grudge spirit. These spirits are literally like Kayako in The Grudge, or Sadako, Samara in the English version of The Ring. They're ghosts of people who have died with such strong passions, jealousy, rage, or hatred, that their soul is unable to pass on. Instead, they transform into powerful, wrathful spirits who seek vengeance on everything they encounter. They tend to appear just like Samara or Kayako in white burial kimonos, with wild, black, unkempt hair. However, these figures date back to ancient Japan. Their motive is always the same: revenge. Onryo are easily powerful enough to kill someone. However, they prefer letting the object of their hatred live a long enough life of torment and suffering. Onryo inflict a terrible curse on people or places that they haunt. This curse can be transmitted to others like a contagious disease, creating a circle of death and destruction. So it isn't always the main target that caused their misery, but their family and others as well who stumble upon them. Moreover, an Onryo's vengeance can never be satisfied. While most Yurai only haunt a person or place until they are exorcised or placated, an Onryo's horrible grudge curse continues to infect a location long after the ghost itself has been laid to rest. So pretty much like Kayako and The Grudge, Onryo are pretty common in Japanese horror. In one Junji Ito manga called The Will, which is within his compilation of works titled The Horror World of Junji Ito, there are two girls that become Onryo. Both girls hated each other and ended up ending their lives in a state of total hatred, both jumping in front of a train at different times in different places. Ultimately, in this story, the ghosts try to seek revenge on each other's families and end up hating each other even in the afterlife. If you haven't heard of Junji Ito, I'd recommend his work. He is like H.P. Lovecraft of Japan, and I will come back to some of his stories in another video. Another Yurai is known as Itsuki, otherwise known as the Strangling Ghost. Itsuki are ghosts of humans who ended their lives by hanging. They haunt the living by confusing people and coercing them to hang themselves, so that the Itsuki spirit can reincarnate and escape from hell. In Japanese culture, people who end their lives are not able to rest, so they come back to haunt the living, sometimes trying to coerce the living into taking their lives. The belief that evil spirits call out to the living to coerce them into taking their own life remains popular in Japan even today, as it is quite the problem over there where many people end their lives. Urban legend describes people receiving messages from a friend joking that they're going to go hang themselves, only to find out a day later that they actually did it, or that they were already dead when the message was sent. They leave notes after they're gone, occasionally mentioning that the victim heard a ghost calling out to them, telling them to do it. Do it. I imagine it sounding like that. Another famous Yurai, more popularized in Japanese horror, is known as Kuchisake Onna, or the Slit-Mouth Woman. Much like the Onryo, they too want to seek revenge. Her name comes from the deep bloody gash that runs across her face, grinning from ear to ear, sort of like a Glasgow smile. She appears at night to lone travelers on the road, covering her grisly mouth with a cloth mask, a fan, or a handkerchief. It wouldn't surprise me if this myth became even more popular because of the coronavirus, with people having to wear masks everywhere. Kuchisake Onna sneaks up on her victims in the dark and asks them if they think she's beautiful. Watashi wa kirei? If the victim answers yes, she pulls off her mask and reveals a red blood-dripping grotesque mouth. She then asks in a grisly voice if they think that she is beautiful. Kore demo. If her victim answers no or screams in terror, she slashes them from ear to ear in an imitation of her own mutilation. If he lies and answers yes a second time, she walks away, only to follow her target home and slaughter him brutally that night. So it's pretty much a lose-lose situation. Again, this figure, which has become so popular in Japanese horror movies, is something that goes back to the Japanese folk stories of travelers on the road encountering the Kuchisake Onna, the spirits of the dead who were killed in particularly violent manners, such as abused wives, tortured captives, defeated enemies, often do not rest well. Traditionally, the Kuchisake Onna is thought to be one such woman. Over the years, clever young people claim to have outsmarted the slit-mouthed woman by delivering quick, confusing answers, or by throwing money or hard candy at her. For some reason, she really likes hard candy. This buys enough time to escape from Kuchisake Onna's wrath and lose her in the darkness. Teke teke. Teke teke. This is actually not the name of another popular yurei, but the sound she makes. Teke teke. Teke teke ghosts are almost always women. She has no lower half and runs around on her arms, creating a distinctive teke teke sound. Half a woman wielding a sickle or a knife, teke teke chases its victims down dark roads. Despite having no legs, a teke teke can run incredibly fast. So fast, in fact, that it can even catch up to victims who are speeding away in cars. When it catches them, something terrible happens. The legends aren't always clear as to what. In some legends, she slices its victim in half and steals their legs. In one legend, an office worker in Mororan, Hokkaido, was assaulted, and after the attack, she leaped off a bridge onto the railroad tracks and was hit by an oncoming train. The impact was so forceful that her body was torn in half at the waist. The severe cold of Hokkaido night caused her blood vessels to contract and prevented her from bleeding out quickly. Instead, she squirmed and wriggled about for help for several minutes. She crawled all the way to the train station and was seen by an attendant. However, instead of trying to help her, the attendant just covered her with a plastic tarp, and she died a slow, agonizing death. Now, according to legend, 3 days after hearing this story, you will see a ghost of a woman with no lower half. The ghost is that of a woman hit by the train. The ghost will try to catch you, and escape is impossible even in a car. Some say that the ghost is searching for her legs, which were lost when she was cut in half. Others say that she is angry at humanity for not helping her when she was dying, and that she is simply out to slaughter as many people as she can. When she catches you, she'll tear you in half and steal the lower half of your body. You may even hear from her after hearing this story. Shortly after hearing the legend, she will ask you a riddle, either in a dream or in a mysterious phone call. The only way to escape death is to answer her questions exactly the right way. She'll ask you, "Do you need your legs?" You must reply, "I need them right now." Then she'll ask you, "Who told you my story?" You must reply, "Kashima Reiko." Ka as in mask, Shi as in death, Ma as in demon, Rei as in ghost, and Ko as in accident. If you answer her riddles without mistake, she may just let you live. Well, that was truly a grotesque tale. I find these beings especially intriguing, notably that most of them are female figures, not saying that there aren't any male ghosts in Japanese culture, but for the majority of them, they're all female. And also a lot of females that try to seek revenge, so the Onryo figure is very popular. But if you find this information interesting, I can look into some other ghostly yokai. I only just picked these few because they're the most prolific in Japanese horror. So, be careful where you go in Japan. Watch out for those creatures of the night. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe, like, and share if you would also like to keep exploring our grotesque curiosity. We will meet again in the darkness of the night.